Iddo Moed, Israel's ambassador to Canada, is on the line. Ambassador, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Let me begin. We asked our listeners earlier in the afternoon with respect to how Canada has handled this from the get-go. And obviously, we know in Canada, Hamas is considered a terrorist organization, though some people, I think, tend to forget that sometimes. Are you happy with how Canada has been relating to Israel as far as this goes?
Canada has been supportive of Israel, but the actions that were taken both in international fora as well as bilaterally are let's say, complicating our position when it comes to being able to defend ourselves in face of what we are experiencing right now on 7 fronts in the Middle East. So, to some extent, yes, the support and the collaboration and cooperation that we have on many levels is there. Canada also is one of the very few countries in the world designated the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization under criminal law, which is extremely important at this point in time. But at the same time, when it comes to the United Nations and other fora, we feel that Canada could have done more.
Okay, and I think that's I think that's objectively rather a fair criticism. Things seem to have changed from the beginning of the attack on October 7th to say 6 or 7 months later, when the situation escalated in Gaza. So beyond that, when I asked listeners earlier on, I said there's no simple solution to what we see going on now. Nobody wants to see, obviously, people die, whether it's in Israel or Gaza or anywhere else for that matter. And then someone sent me a text, Ambassador, that said this. Well, we talk about a lasting peace in the region, right? We all know the term where there's a will, there's a way. It seems in this case, there is no will. Is there?
There is a very simple solution here that everybody forgets. Every now and then we have to remind everyone. Hamas release the hostages and lay down the weapons. It's very, very simple, and this whole thing will be over. We've said that from the onset. And since they are still holding 101 hostages, and one of them was declared dead just today, actually this morning, because of their fact that they are holding, just imagine somebody holding hundreds of Canadians hostage for a whole year in dungeons somewhere and actually attacking Canada to try and destroy it. It's unimaginable for most of us, but this is the reality of Israel, which is actually is not the size of Canada, but it's smaller than Vancouver Island. So we are in a completely different situation. Nobody wants war, nobody wants bloodshed, but our brothers and sisters are being held hostage there, and our enemies want to destroy us. There is no other way to look at it. From the river to the sea means the eradication of the state of Israel. The liberation of Jerusalem by Hezbollah is the eradication of Israel. So we are fighting for survival, and we are trying to do it while upholding all our obligations under international law and trying to make the hardest work for ourselves to distinguish between terrorists and civilians, warn people in advance, call them pamphlets, show them safe places, whatever we can do to make sure that they are staying out of harm's way and that humanitarian aid is delivered to them. So we are going enormously out of our way because we believe in our neighbors and we believe in living with them in the future when this source of evil is eradicated, and that's Hamas and basically the Iranian regime.
Is there ever, to reference what Melanie Joly said a moment ago, and it's been brought up by several people, is there in the future a two-state solution? Is that viable for the region?
I think that everything is viable, given the fact that Israel and the Palestinians have managed to move quite a significant way forward years back, given the fact that Israel has peace agreements with 5 countries in the region, and given the fact that we have informal relations with many more. Yes, of course there is a future of peace in the region, but we have to understand we are fighting against an evil source that is trying to destabilize the whole region, not just Israel, but the whole Middle East, and actually far beyond it. And that's really our common challenge, not just Israel, but the international community. Iran is not just an Israeli problem. It's an international problem. If they operate here in Canada and try to use social media to enhance mayhem and problems on the streets, that's a Canadian problem. And I think that the Canadian government realizes that.
Has the Canadian government done enough in that scenario?
I'm not to judge that. I'm from my perspective, in the Middle East, what we are calling for is a joint effort against the Iranian regime there, and I think it's something that more and more countries are realizing is necessary. There is no other way. We are not at war with Lebanon, but we are with Hezbollah, which is an Iranian proxy. And of course, we're trying to do whatever we can to spare innocent lives and infrastructure, and to try to hit exactly those who are on our sides, and those are the Hezbollah terrorists who've been shooting 8,000, almost 9,000 rockets into Israel over the past year. It's an unimaginable number, but they have rockets that inflict huge damage and destroyed hundreds of homes in Israel, and of course killed lots of people, including 12 children playing soccer in Majid Shams just the other month in July.
So a couple of questions. Number one, you mentioned there's a simple solution. And obviously, if the hostages are returned and Hamas lays down its weapons, this is all over. There was a hostage exchange earlier in this situation. Palestinians, I guess, in Israeli jails were free. You got some hostages back. Why has that not been able to happen again?
Because Hamas is not a trustworthy partner. Because Hamas is a terrorist organization, because what they did is actually break the deal very quickly, rearmed, regroup, and continue their attacks against Israel. So there is, unfortunately, it's a horrible price that we are paying, but there is no counterpart. It is not a state speaking to a state. It's an organization that its whole essence is to eradicate the state of Israel. So they have all the interest in continuing the war and prolonging the war, and actually drawing in more and more parties into it. And that's actually our challenge. If we stop right now, it doesn't mean that everything stops. It means that they will continue because, they are not United Nations member, they're not part of any international obligation, so they only do whatever they know to do, and that is to kill as many Israelis as possible. And we've seen on October the 7th exactly what that meant.
Ambassador, how does it ever stop?
It stops when we win against evil. We can, because this is what the free world has been able to do in the Second World War, after the Second World War, and it's because we believe in coexistence, because our essence as Jewish people is to strive for peace. We call it peace in Jerusalem, and that means that we as a people live together in peace with others around us. We've managed to do that inside Israel. I just would like to remind our listeners for a second that 20% of Israel's population is not Jewish, but they are part and parcel of our society. They are Supreme Court judges, they are doctors, they are medics, they are farmers, they are pharmacists, they are everything and anything that Israelis do. And we have peace within ourselves as much as we can. Israel is a very vibrant society, and that extremists exist on all sides, and ultra-Orthodox and religious and seculars and left and right. We have everything in that small little country. And that's a vibrant democracy. That's what we call a vibrant democracy. Nobody's happy, but everybody's satisfied because everybody has a room and a space. So if we manage to do that inside Israel, in spite of all the disagreements that we have, we can do it also in the broader Middle East. But we have to lay down weapons. We have to get rid of those extremists, the dangerous people who have no room for another state and other people, like the Jewish people. We have to get rid of them so that there will be room for the moderates for us to live together.
Just as a final question, we know, of course, both Joe Biden, I think many other foreign leaders as well, now that there's a bracing for what might happen when Israel retaliates for the ballistic missiles launched by Iran a week or so ago. There are plenty of countries and plenty of leaders standing up. I heard Joe Biden just say the other day, Ambassador, that, it's time for Benjamin Netanyahu to listen to people who want this to start de-escalating. And the fact that he's not and is sort of challenging them shows it's more of a political objective for him now than it ever was before.
I'm not sure if I get your question, but I'll say only this. Israel is a democracy. Our Prime Minister is a democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel. Only the people of Israel will decide who will be their Prime Minister. And so whatever policy he pursues, he has the full support of coalition and opposition on most issues pertaining to this war. And you can check that. You can see how
but with all due respect, there are thousands of people protesting on the streets of Israel as well, let's be honest.
Yes, of course. And that is part of our democracy. We are torn from within when our hearts go out to the families of the hostages who want to have a deal right now, who believe that we have to do whatever it takes to get our hostages back, and others who say perhaps we should find another way. And that's fair. That's society. It's just to try and imagine the kind of level of argument, how emotional and how heart-wrenching it is very hard to all of us. But people in Israel are all very involved, and so they go out to the streets and they say whatever they say. And as you see very well, it's been going on for more than a year, all within boundaries of the law. And so, although people our hearts are the way their hearts on the streets, we know that we are living there together, and we will find a way in our democracy to make any changes when the time comes.
Ambassador, I thank you for your time. I wish you and all the Israeli citizens who are today marking this occasion a very, very a hope and a prayer for peace sooner rather than later. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. Shalom.